So one of the things I've wanted to talk about is burnout. It happens in the tech industry, I think, a lot more often than people would think. I think most people in tech who actually work in tech understand burnout. They may have different ways to work on it, and to each his own. But I think it's important to discuss and be transparent about having burnout in the tech field and how to kind of deal with it as well. I've been working in tech for just about almost 20 years. It's getting there, kind of wild. But when I think about all the different types of jobs I've had in tech, from actual IT to networking to being on site, doing like satellite dish installations, to doing DevOps, to doing software and automation, to doing web development, to doing containerization, to doing project management. It's a lot that I've done, and I've probably forgotten things throughout that list. All of those different types of jobs come with different types of burnout because you're doing different things. For example, if you're doing IT, where you have to pick up a phone, you have to handle an email, you have to remote in to people's computers, or there's like a remoting queue that you have to basically deal with and manage throughout the day. I think that those types of situations lead to a lot of burnout faster. Interacting with people on top of having to have technical knowledge, it varies kind of how you deal with whatever situation they are actually experiencing, and how the person is on the other side, and whether or not you're a good communicator and like good conversator, and whether or not you're able to handle things that don't go as you intended while you're on the phone. That's why I view it as one of the faster ways to lead to burnout. And the main reason would be is because if, let's say, whatever you're dealing with is stressful, right? Or hard, rather. Let's say it's hard, right? And you need time to go through it, right? The person on the phone can be condescending. You may not want to let them know that in particular. Let's say now you may have to reach out with someone else for help, or let's say you may have to do research on top of that. It just kind of depends as far as their scenario, and kind of communicating that to the person, especially if, let's say, they are a jerk and they want things right now, like it's kind of hard to kind of deal with those things, right? And you usually see those things in other fields where, let's say, you're doing sales or you're doing some sort of customer interaction type of job. But having to deal with that with a technical knowledge sometimes is difficult. Sometimes a person may argue with you over how something needs to be done or what should be done for, let's say, a technical thing that you pretty much know how to do, on how do you deal with that and how do you work with that, which isn't really a big deal if you know how to communicate, but also can be stressful if the person themselves are a jerkwad. But then also trying to figure out deeper, harder technical things can be stressful, depending on the scenario. I actually find it enjoyable, but it depends on how much time you have to even look into it, which could be stressful. Are you good with working under a short time frame? Depending on the MSP that you're working at, or the IT company or whatever, right? You may be doing multiple different things at once, meaning you may get a call, but you also may be already remoted into someone else's computer doing work for them, typing on their computer through like a chat through them while you're on the phone. And as that's happening, you're obviously getting in emails as well. So it's not one of these things that is just kind of 1v1 where you may have to deal with one thing at a time. You're probably dealing with 3 things at a time and communicating with about 2 to 3 people at different speeds, kind of at the same time. And depending on if someone's a jerk or something like that, it starts to become this juggling act, right? I remember I was working a contracted position in 2017 out in Camarillo, California for an MSP. It was specifically to take care of some stuff that needed to be set up for some servers, some DC controllers, some print servers, certain things like that for a couple different clients they had, and they wanted some automated things. So that's why they brought me in for that in particular. And I remember like meeting the person next to me who we got to talking. I remember him saying that he was really happy to just be back working in tech as a help desk at all, because he basically had burned out from the job about 8 or 9 months before he had first started, he was essentially telling me that, like, at his other job, he was essentially doing what he was doing now, but a lot more, and the people were jerks, and he basically just burned out, where he felt like he couldn't work. He felt like he couldn't do much of anything, and was depressed, and had anxiety and was stressed out. And I think, like, when it happens to me, I really try to assess whether or not the job is worth my time. If I'm in this career to be successful and to be a real asset to a company and to be a real asset to, let's say, the world, and let's say do good things and cool things, right? Is arguing with someone worth my time? Is being stressed out worth my time? I feel like there's a balance. At the end of the day, if you committed to doing a job, you should really try your best 100%, because that's what you tried to do. You committed to that job, but you also have to think of yourself. They're not going to think of you first. They're going to think of the company first, as they should. So with that balance being said, you should really just first think to yourself, is what you're about to get yourself into good? If not, constantly look for another job. Make looking for another job be your second job. I'm not saying play your hands and just be, telling people, hey, you're going to look for another job, but just keep your options open. Most of the time you're on a probationary period anyway, but you should also be treating that as a probationary period for the company you're working for as well. The next thing is just taking a breather, right? Like, if you're doing stuff like this, taking a breather does help. I mean, obviously it's difficult, especially if you're on the phone. Like, for me, I've had that happen numerous times. However, you kind of can manage the phone communication depending on the scenario of the MSP, if they've trained you how to communicate versus if they've not, or whatever. Usually there's still always some sort of middle leeway for you to breathe. If they haven't given you a chance to breathe, that's usually weird. I feel like some companies that I've worked with, let's say if you just had a phone call, they'll have it so that the phone won't pick up for like 30 seconds so you can breathe. But that's about it. Like, and then you go right back to it. Some other places it'll just pick up immediately, just because that's what it is, and you just got to do it. But if that is the case and you just pick up phones immediately, usually then what I'll do is I'll first still just work. I'll get the information of whatever the person needs help with, and then I'll just put them on hold, and then take the breather, and then do the work, or get deeper into whatever I need to. But that's like you can always find a way, or try to find ways to get your de-stressing periods out. The other thing is just taking an actual break from the job. Like, who cares what the company says, where they're like, oh, well, we really need you or whatever. Like, if you actually have hours or whatever, they cannot stop you from taking those days. You know what I mean? Obviously, if they have some rule in place that says, hey, you got to do it a week or 2 weeks in advance or whatever, it's lame, but just make it happen anyway. Like, if you're feeling some type of way anyway, and let's say 2 weeks from now you feel better, it doesn't matter. Just plan out days to actually have time for yourself. It just will be better for yourself, because that's those free extra days or hours or whatever that you get from having days off at your company. They may accumulate, they may be whatever specific, but you should always use them for your advantage, especially if you're feeling burned out. Like, if you're feeling burned out and you have a max amount of days and vacation or sick or whatever, you should be using that. That's first and foremost. If you liked this video, please leave a thumbs up and please subscribe. If you have any comments, concerns, or questions, please leave them in the comments below, as I love to interact with everyone. And other than that, I hope the rest of your day goes well. Have a good one, everyone.